If you are watching this video, it's because you've completed the previous steps and you're now ready to use Reaper to edit and mix your sounds. So you should be wearing headphones or earbuds or AirPods or some kind of in-ear device so that you can hear your sounds really well and make adjustments as you see fit. And also so that if you're using a microphone on the outside of your computer, it doesn't pick up the sounds coming out of the speakers. So the first thing we'll do is open Reaper. And usually it opens on the last project you were working on. If this is your first time, it might look a little different. So click on File, New Project. And then Reaper will ask you to name it when it says Save As, name your project. So I'm going to call it Audio SCAV Hunt, short for Scavenger Hunt, my initials, and the month and year. This is so that when I want to look for this file, it's very easy to find. So I'll do save. And then the project settings window opens. You don't have to worry about this right now, so we'll just click on OK. Now go into this gray space over here and double click, and a new track will appear. So this is the track that we're going to drop our sounds into. Now when I saved my sound files, I saved them in a folder on my desktop. You might have saved them in Documents. So you'll go wherever they are and you open the folder up so that you can see them here. And I'm going to choose the footsteps file. And now you can drag this using your mouse, 2 fingers or 3 fingers if you're using a magic mouse, and you can drop it directly into Reaper. Now I can close this folder, and now I'm going to full screen this, and I can drag this right up to the beginning of the track. So first thing I'm going to do is trim my track, because when I listen, there's a little bit of extra noise at the beginning of turning on the machine. So I'm going to get rid of that. So if I go on the edge of the track here, right at the beginning, you see a little rectangle, sort of half a rectangle appears with a double-headed arrow. Well, I'm just going to drag that now to where I want it to be. There it is. Now I'm going to drag this back to the beginning. And I'm going to do the same thing at the very end of the track, because there's probably some extra noise. So to move over to the left or right, there's this cursor at the bottom that you can drag over to the left or right. And to play my track, it's spacebar. Hit spacebar to play. So I want to get rid of that last bit of noise. So I'm going to do the same thing. See that rectangular sort of shape with a double arrow right on the edge of your track, and drag it. So now the next thing I'm going to do is add some fades, fade in and fade out at the beginning and the end of my track, just because it sounds nice. And so if I'm back here at the edge of my track with the double-headed arrow and the rectangle shape, if I go a little higher, my shape changes and it's a quarter of a circle with a 90-degree arrow, 90-degree angle and double-headed arrow again. So I can just drag that over, and there's my fade in. So what that does is brings the volume up very slowly, starting with no volume. And usually what I do is I go right on there so I can see that shape again, anywhere on that fade line, right click, and then you can change the shape of the fade. And so I like that one better. If ever you're in the middle of your track or somewhere in the track and you want to go back to the beginning, you can click to the beginning, or you can use the cursor. Another really nice shortcut is just hitting W. So W will take you right back to the beginning. Now I'm going to do the same thing at the end with the fade. So I go to the end. Remember where that rectangular shape is with the double-headed arrow. I'm going to go a little higher. There's my fade. I'm going to drag that over. And I'm going to get on that line and right-click and choose the other shape, and we hear it fade out nicely. Now W goes right back to the beginning of my track. The other thing you can do here with your track is adjust the volume from here, the global volume of the entire track. And you can also adjust the panning. So that's on which side your sound is heard. Right now it's in the center. If I use my mouse to drag up or down, it goes to the left. So let me play the track. And I'll just put it 100% to the left. And if you're wearing headphones right now, you'll hear that it's all the way to the left or all the way to the right. So that can be interesting when you've got multiple tracks and you want some to be on the left, some to be on the right. And of course, if you had more tracks, you would just double click in the space again, and you could drag a new file into here and it would play at the same time. So that's when things get really interesting. I'm just going to get rid of this extra track because we don't need it right now. So we've talked about trimming your track. We've talked about adding fades. We've talked about the volume, your global track volume, and we've talked about panning. I'm going to talk about two simple effects that you can add that can really enhance your track. Before I do that, I'm going to select, so I'm going to go up here in the darker gray part and select. I'm just going to stretch that out and see how it highlights part of my track. So now I'm also going to click this toggle repeat, which is another way to say loop. So if I put my cursor here and hit play, it will just play this section on a loop. And this is so that I can, I'm just going to pause it for a second. I can go into effects now. And the first one I'm going to do is Re-EQ, Re for Reaper. It's the Reaper plugins that come in. They come included with the software. So I'm going into the equalization or EQ, and that's where it shows the frequencies that you can hear with this file. And so you'll see them moving around. So now you can adjust these frequency settings and boost certain frequencies or take down certain frequencies. So if I boost this is my low frequency, lower numbers or lower frequencies. See that? At about 200 it gets really boomy there. So I can play with that. That's 200 hertz. And if I'm at my higher frequency at 5,000 hertz or 5K kilohertz, you can hear that. It's really high frequency. So I can knock that out if I want. And it suddenly becomes like somebody's outside in a different room. All you hear is the lower frequencies. So you can play with that and have some fun altering frequencies. Another effect you can add that can be very interesting, let me just pause that for a moment. You can also add a reverb effect. So Re for Reaper, Verb, Reverb from Cocos. That's the company that makes these plugins. And first of all, when you hit play, there won't be any reverb. You have to select the preset that comes with Reaper is Sweet Verbo or Bad Crunch. I'm just going to click on Sweet Verbo, and instantly you can hear it. So the wet is the effect, and the dry is the signal from my track. So that's just like another volume you can turn up or bring down. And now the wet is how much of effect I want to add. So with not very much, you can hear quite a difference. And obviously you can get you can make it sound quite bizarre and large, but a little bit can be kind of interesting. And so you can play with these settings as well, with the width of the reverb and the panning, the left and right panning of the reverb, where you want it to sound, and pre-reverb. So I invite you to explore those and have some fun. So finally, when you're happy with your track, or if you want to remove this selection, you can just right click in it and hit remove selection. W goes right back to the beginning. Now, Command S or File Save. It's always a good idea to do that often. And now let's pretend I'm done. So I'm done and I'm happy with my file. What you're going to do is render it, because the project is open and all the little parts are separately open in the project. Now we want to close it up into a file, like a WAV or an MP3, that can be read by a media player like iTunes or music on your phone. And so I'm going to select here in output format. I'm going to click on MP3 encoder by Lame project. And at file name, I'm just going to make sure the file name makes sense. I'm going to change it. I'm going to call it Audio Scavenger Hunt Footsteps, March 2021. And the other thing I would change is channels. Make it a mono file. It will be a little bit smaller to send. You can leave it at 192 here in the resample mode at good. And bit rate, if it's not at 192, leave it at 192. These are the qualities of your file. Higher numbers mean larger files. And so you can decide for yourself how much difference it makes to your ears. When you're ready, click on Render One File, and then it shows it to you. And you can close that and hit save one more time, quit Reaper. Now, if you remember, my Reaper project was in my documents. And so Audio Scavenger Hunt, here it is. It will be with all the Reaper files, so it can be a little bit confusing, but you look for the one that ends in MP3. So that's the file. So now I can play that right from here, from my computer. And you can hear that reverb, or I can email that to somebody, send it as an attachment in an email, or I could upload it to Drive or some similar software that I use, app that I use, or you can open a SoundCloud account and upload to your SoundCloud page for your audio projects, which I encourage you to do. It's a great thing to share your projects with the world. That's all for now. Happy editing and mixing.